Fifth time was a charm for Brett Maher, and there's Mike McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's got the big chain. Oh, man. Big guy moving. He was starting to do the robot or something. I don't know what that was. Some new move that he just came up with.
It's called Shut That Sean Payton Talk Up. I'm the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That's that move right there. That's what that is. That's called
I would say
no Sean Payton shimmy right there.
So, like the Shove It Sean Shimmy?
Right.
Would that be the best name for it?
Right.
Shove It Sean Shimmy?
Or shove it media over the Sean Shimmy. Right. Yeah, something.
Well, after last year's wild card loss at home, which was capped by a failure of attention to detail, a poorly executed, riskily conceived quarterback draw aimed at buying time for one more shot at the end zone, which didn't take into account the fact the umpire had to teleport through two bodies before he could touch the ball and the ball could be spiked, which we've talked about at length. Nothing like that this time around. Just flat-out excellence from the Cowboys, wire to wire. We're going to break it down here on PFT Live, presented by Google Pixel. Learn more at googlestore.com. Hello to everyone watching on Peacock, listening on Sirius XM 85, watching and listening on Sky Sports NFL or podcasts, whenever, wherever, however, getting emails from throughout the galaxy after our reference to Uranus yesterday. So let's see if we can top it today right out of the gates. But, Chris, you can't top what the Cowboys did last night. I got to give you credit. Not that even you saw that coming. I didn't think they'd just completely kick the crap out of them, make it such a lopsided affair that there was no chance for Tom Brady to rev up the engine on comeback heroics. What a way to go out. At least last year, he did everything he could to tie up the Rams before the defense let them down in the divisional round loss. They didn't even show up last night. It was embarrassing.
Well, I think we saw really, a little bit what the Buccaneers were all year, right? We had moments of, oh, wait, it's good and all that type of stuff. But we kind of hit that point of where Dallas motivated, sick of hearing all the noise about, oh, you finished the season this way, Dak's not playing well. So they played their top-notch A-plus type of football game that we know when they play it, they're capable of dominating just about anybody in the sport. And then this is kind of what we saw from Tampa all year. We were always hopeful. We had those moments and, little glimmers of, oh, wow, okay, wait, maybe they can turn the corner here. Maybe it's the playoffs and they're healthy, and maybe this will be the time where they start to put their best football together. But no, ultimately it came back to this is the team we saw through the 18 weeks of the regular season. Just inconsistent, no run game, mistakes, blown coverages, putting too much on the shoulders of Brady at 45 years old, and really that was a dominant performance, like you said, by the Dallas Cowboys, who did just about everything right after those first few drives where it was a little bit of a stalemate. They controlled the game from that point on.
Remember, the big question was whether or not the Buccaneers would be able to run the ball.
Yeah.
They ran the ball back in week one when they won the game 19-3, and they had center Ryan Jensen back for the first time all year. He suffered a knee injury, second day of training camp. They were always very vague about what type of knee injury it was, and we don't really know, and the swelling's still there, and he just kind of lingered, and then all of a sudden he's back, and he's in the starting lineup, but they still couldn't run the ball. Leonard Fournette had 11 yards on 5 carries. Rashad White had 41 on 7.
Yeah,
of course, they had to abandon the run game fairly quickly once they fell way behind. And Tom Brady threw 66 passes at 45 years old.
Not going to happen.
66 passes, completed 35, 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, a passer rating of not very good 72.2. But you said we've seen that Buccaneers team all year. No, at times we saw good performances. This was the Buccaneers that we saw when we were like, what the hell is wrong with them? I didn't see anything last night that made me say, oh, there was the team that we saw beat the Rams or beat the Saints coming from behind, or
I know, but look at what you're talking about. Look at what you're talking about. See?
Beat the Seahawks,
they beat the average Saints and the not good Rams, and they barely won and had like 7 horseshoes up their butt to do it. That's what I mean. Mike, I fell in the trap too. We all do. It's Brady. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but there's just very few moments. We had a few of those clutch moments that you're talking about where you go, oh, wait, maybe that's the way they could play it. If they can just hang around, they can be tough to beat because Brady will be big time in, the end of the half and end of game moments. But ultimately, Mike, you just said it right. I mean, 62 times or however many times it was to throw the football, that's not sustainable with Tom Brady. That was one of the things we talked about yesterday. I know I talked about it on my podcast a bunch. Like, if they have to throw it 40-plus times in a game last night, no way it's going to work. I mean, they couldn't block Dallas. They can't block Dallas, and then we know Brady at his age becomes uncomfortable, right? So Dallas played a great game. We got to give them credit first off. They came out really, from the get-go, I thought like, oh, wow, they're playing. They're hitting. And I thought that was pretty apparent even through the stalemate. Not that I thought they were about to take off, but once they did take off, they showed they were in a different class than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just excite me. They excite you when they play like that because you go, ooh, that's a special team, and can they sustain that and make a run and do something special here?
Well, and that's something that we saw in fits and starts throughout the season.
Right.
They would begin to look dominant, like what they did to the Vikings, what they did in the fourth quarter to the Colts. But that team has a habit of not showing up when you expect them to. When you don't expect them to, that's when they show up. That's going to be the challenge. On a short week, turning it around from Monday night, flying back to Texas, then flying to San Francisco, they have 5 days to get ready for 6 days, I don't know, what do you want to call it? It's Monday to Sunday, but then the 49ers have Saturday to the following Sunday, and they don't have to travel anywhere.
No.
That puts even more pressure on the Cowboys to show up and play like they did last night. And that's the problem. I think they set a bar last night. Everyone with the exception of kicker Brett Maher set a bar last night that's going to be difficult to live up to. It raises expectations. It's very easy to get yourself fired up to go out and play well when you can use that everyone thinks I stink card. Now everyone thinks I'm great, and you've got to parlay that into another great performance against a much better team in their building with a couple of days of difference in preparation time. It's not going to be easy for the Cowboys, but it sure looked easy last night. And Dak Prescott, for as spotty as Tom Brady was, Dak Prescott was spectacular. He threw half the number of passes, completed 25 of 33, 305, 4 touchdowns to 3 different receivers, ran one in. Dalton Schultz got a couple. There's the fourth down. Brilliant call. That's the way you fool a defense. He just was great. He was the guy that they paid $40 million a year to last night. That's when you earn that money. You step up in the playoffs against one of the all-time greats, and you don't just barely win. You kick the crap out of him.
Yeah, that's right. You kind of said it. It was a nice blend of surgical, systematic, just taking apart the defense. And then I think when you add on top of that, then we saw some of the, hey, wait, nothing's there. He made a nice run. He got out of the pocket, scrambled, played some backyard football, which he hasn't been doing a whole lot lately, which is going to be a pain in the butt for a team like the 49ers, the Eagles going forward. But ultimately, too, and guys, if we could show those clips of plays again, I think not only did he play good, the Dallas Cowboys were ready for Tampa Bay. Just some of the plays. I mean, again, this touchdown right here, this is total game plan. We kind of know what coverage you're going to play, messed with their rules. You said it right here. I'm sure to call that play in that moment, they had great evidence that, yes, that guy comes down the line of scrimmage too aggressive. Here's some backyard football. And then he's going to throw the CD Lamb play the next play, Mike. Or no, this one, again, another great game plan play. Creativity, probably broke tendencies. He acted like he was going inside. He breaks outside. And then this play here, again, kind of knowing what they're going to get, dialing up the perfect play. So I guess what I'm trying to say is way to go, Dak Prescott, but way to go, Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, for coming up with a game plan that really – exposed Tampa and some of their rules. And they hadn't done that, in the first 2 times, or the first meeting last year and the meeting before that. So got to give them credit for some of the creativity and game planning they came up with.
I was looking back at the Buccaneers' schedule, and if there was a signature win, it was all the way back in Week 1, 19-3 at Dallas.
Right, it's crazy.
Given what we now know about both teams. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the playoffs are where preparation, focus, film study, self-scouting thyself becomes, I think, even more critically important. We saw that play on Sunday in the Vikings game when Harrison Smith crashed down to Saquon Barkley and the fake and the throw, and it was obvious that the Giants knew exactly what the Vikings were going to bite on, and maybe they set something up with their own formation.
Exactly.
That's where you go next level. We're going to show them something that we've put on film umpteen times this year.
Dangle
and
it in front
run
of
out
them.
of it every single time.
Right.
And guess what?
Right.
This time we're not going to do it. And we're going to let them think that they've cracked the code on us, and we're going to use it against them. So that's effective coaching. You know, at a time when the narrative was, based upon how they performed last year against the 49ers in the wild card round, that a failure of coaching on Monday night could have significant consequences to Mike McCarthy, you're going to have some folks who follow the Buccaneers now saying, what did our coaching staff do here to get ready for this Cowboys team? What did they do to stay ahead of the curve? What did we do to self-scout ourselves? What did we do to crack the code on the Cowboys? It's not just execution. You can look at the players and say, Tom Brady, he doesn't have it anymore, but coaching is a big part of it too. I expect there to be some changes on that staff. I don't know that Todd Bowles is going to be in trouble after only 1 year as the head coach, but there's been a lot of chatter about Byron Leftwich, who was a hot head coaching candidate a year ago and at one point looked like he was going to be the next Jaguars coach. There's talk that maybe he's going to be out. There's some speculation in and around Pittsburgh that maybe Mike Tomlin's waiting to make a change at coordinator because he's thinking Leftwich is going to end up there replacing Matt Canada.
That'd be
so
interesting.
Keep an eye on that one in the coming days.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see that happen. I mean, I'd be a little shocked, honestly, if Tampa wanted to part ways with him. I think Leftwich and what we see from that offense is I like a lot of their answers and what they do. I do. I mean, I think some of it has got to go back onto like, hey, we got to talk about personnel a little bit as well. And then maybe the shelf life of that football team has just gone, a year too far. And we know in the NFL, you win a Super Bowl 2-3 years before that. I mean, hey, 1 year before that, like the Rams, it doesn't take much to go, wait, that Super Bowl team, as great as it was, it's the lifeline's coming to an end. It's over. And I think that's kind of where we got with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's why we saw Tom Brady try to leave town last year. He felt like this was coming last offseason. This was why he tried to make a move to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But, just an underwhelming season. And it's hard to put your finger on any one thing. It's injuries. It's just, lack of detail on both sides of the ball. The Brady life, distractions and the things he had to go through. It just was not a good year for Tampa. A lot of distractions and issues, and they never really played good football. Like you said earlier, just showed us a few moments and glimmers here and there. But other than that, it was very inconsistent.
We'll spin it forward regarding the Buccaneers later because, frankly, we have all offseason to spin it forward for them because they're done. Here's Mike McCarthy, coach of the Cowboys, after the game, talking about arguably the best performance ever from Dak Prescott.
As good as I've seen, that's for sure. I think just like anything, he's so consistent in everything he does. And, like you said, we had a couple plays there early, but, I mean, he was on it the rest of the evening. I thought he was, Kellen and, the play calling, we just really stayed true to what we wanted to do in here. And like I said, I thought he played extremely well and, stayed aggressive and, took the check downs. I thought he had great command of the offense and excellent presence in the pocket.
Love that old school Cowboys logo on McCarthy's hoodie. And Prescott playing like an old school Cowboys quarterback, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman. I mean, that was a night that Prescott, if it sticks, that was a night he entered a next level. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but we can't just assume that it's going to continue. We have to see it again. He plays like he did last night. They're going to give the 49ers everything they can handle next Sunday. But we just have to see if they can muster that, if they can harness that, if they can go back to the lab and come up with the same kinds of things that will trick the 49ers that managed to trick the Buccaneers last night. But, man, it really was great. First player in the history of the franchise to have 2 or more passing touchdowns and 1 or more rushing touchdowns in a playoff game, and his passer rating of 143.3, nearly twice what Tom Brady's was. That's the highest in a playoff game in Dallas Cowboys history, and they have a storied playoff history, as we all know, but the story has been on pause since 1995, and that was their first road win in the playoffs, Chris, in 30 years. That's how long it had been since they had left home and won a playoff game.
Right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. 49ers, NFC Championship game, 1992 season, right? January of 93, the first of the 3 Super Bowls for the Dallas Cowboys. It's crazy to think a franchise like that, the first one, first road playoff game since then. But, yeah, Prescott was amazing. And two, I think the more impressive thing about it is it wasn't like huge 80-yard plays last night that got them, over 400 yards of total offense. That's where, again, I go to like systematically dominating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just completions for 10 and 12 and 15 and 8 and 10. And, here's a little run for 8 with Tony Pollard. And they had it all going. And they're a momentum team. We know that. I do think this is one where, Mike, like to your point from a little bit ago, they're going to ride this momentum. This won't be I think they like the bar being up there, and they're going for it. I do think that group has that way about them, and they're going to ride this wave, which is going to be exciting about them going into San Francisco, no doubt. But, hey, like we talked about with Tampa, that we saw what we kind of saw all year from Tampa. That's what they were. I think we kind of forgot what we saw from Dallas all year because we let the last 2 games kind of influence our brains here a little, right? We had the Tennessee game. Yeah, Tennessee's not playing any starters. They controlled the game, but it was kind of lackluster on Thursday night. The Washington game. Yeah, okay, they had something to play for, but did they? I mean, come on. They were aware that the Giants were playing backups against Philadelphia, and the score of that game was 19-0 pretty early on. And it's hard to get up for that. But let's not forget about the stretch they had before that, where they were dominant. And, I mean, you can go back to, Lions Week 7 and that little stretch they hit there all the way up until the Philadelphia win at home on Christmas Eve to go, no, we saw Dallas through that period there play some really good football. Yeah, they lost to the Packers and Dak threw 2 dumb interceptions in that game. But other than that, we were having thoughts of, they're definitely one of the best teams in football. I think they reminded us that last night. And they were clearly, like we were talking about, in another clash from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we'll see if they can keep that going against the 49ers.
But that's the key. They have to keep doing it. They have to string it together. You got to do 2 more of these to get to the Super Bowl and 1 more of these to get to where you haven't been since 1996 January, the NFC Championship game, the last time they advanced to the Super Bowl, beat the Steelers that year. That was the year that they beat the Packers, a year before the Packers won a Super Bowl.
Packers upset the 49ers.
Steelers over the Colts and Jim Harbaugh, a game that I attended, and the fateful final Hail Mary was right down below where I was sitting for that one. And that's the last time they were in. That's still, every year that goes by, it becomes harder to accept. It's been that long since the Dallas Cowboys, one of the most storied franchises in the NFL, hasn't played for the right to go to a Super Bowl. 1995 season, early 96, and they get a chance to reverse it coming up here on Sunday night.
Yeah, they got Super Bowl caliber players. They do. And we saw last night game plan specific stuff from the offensive side of the ball. We saw Dan Quinn do some interesting things on the defensive side of the ball. He's always creative that way. They executed. They out-physical Tampa Bay. Mike, they did all the little things. Even second half, they're dominating the game 24-0, Mike. My brother, Matt Simms, he texts me. He's like, man, it's the third quarter, and he's like, Dallas, the running backs, they're staying in bounds. Like, they're cognizant of the clock already. He's like, that's pretty good. Way to go, Mike McCarthy. And I was like, damn, you're right. They have. They made a conscious effort on a lot of running plays to stay in bounds and realizing the spot in the game in which they were in and how they were going to execute that. But, Dallas, smothered Tampa Bay. And we had the one crucial moment, right, where we thought, okay, wait, we got a game here. And this is, too, just kind of a microcosm of the year a little bit. The the Brady interception, that in the end zone, that was the moment where we went, oh, wow. And then that drive to go down and score and make it 12-0, that's when you went, oh, man, all right, man, I don't know. Tampa, oh, gosh, this is just what Tampa is all year. This was a pitiful play right here by Tom Brady. And really, this was the end of the football game. I mean, this was it. After this, Dallas
let's stop right now. Let me stop you right now. Look, there's no shame in what Tom Brady did on this play. There is some shame in not calling it out. We got to call it out. This is the duck and cover play. This is what we saw multiple times in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago when they almost blew an 18-point lead. This is the I'm too old for this shit play. This is the I can't take a direct hit from a guy that weighs 300-plus pounds who is half my age play. And that's fine. Look, it takes more courage than I could ever muster to just be out there at 45. But that is, I don't want to take a square hit. If he stays in the pocket like we see plenty of quarterbacks do and takes that hit to the middle of the chest, he delivers a ball that's catchable. He deliberately chose, and that's part of what his game is now, to keep. This is the thing that any team that is thinking, whoa, he could put a lot of butts in the seats and, create a lot of excitement and maybe we can contend. That he's got to. This is a balance. He's been doing it for 5 years. I remember there was a play against the Steelers when there was a ball he threw. He said threw it up away to Gronk. It was intercepted down
on the 1 yard line in Pittsburgh.
And again, it's not criticism of him. This is self-preservation. This is what happens when you are 45 and a half now. You can't take those hits. So there will be times, it's part of the overall calculation, there will be times where I just got to get rid of the ball. And that's what he did last night. That was I have to save my ass type of a throw. And that's not, and say what you will about Kirk Cousins, and one of us did on Sunday night. You never see Cousins do that. Cousins stays in there, takes that hit, and gets up and keeps going. And he's not 45. Again, it's not a fear thing. It's a reality thing. It's a 45 years old thing.
Sure.
And it's going to be 46 next year, and it's something that he has to ask himself, am I comfortable still making plays like that when I have to? And a team that signs him has to ask that question. Are we comfortable with a quarterback who, by necessity, has to do the chuck and duck play from time to time?
Yeah, that's what you got to figure out. That's part of it, and that's why he needs a certain support system. And if he does pick another team to play for, he's going to pick a team that's got a great pass protection and sets it up to where he doesn't have to be in those situations. Hey, he's awesome. We know that. He's the GOAT, but he's not a guy that's going to make plays outside the pocket right now. And, yes, he's not going to hang in there necessarily and let a guy work his way down the field to get into a second window, hold the ball, and take a shot, in the process of doing that. That's not going to happen. And that's why last night was just a recipe for disaster. They tried to run the ball a little bit early. Dallas was crowding the line of scrimmage. Dallas won first and second down for the most part early on in the game. And then Tampa just went, wait, we can't run it. Forget it, because every time we run it, it's 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13. And then they got into throwing the ball. And, hey, we came on here a lot during the year. Of course, Brady had his moments, and we praised him, but we came out here a lot and went, man, he's jumpy, and, man, just hang in the pocket there. This guy's open. And that was, what we saw last night. They got into a game where it was just too much on him, and they were harassing him and around him to where, he's not comfortable, and he's not Josh Allen or Mahomes where he's just going to make moves and take shots and throw sidearm lasers around the football field. We're not there. Like you said, he's 45, and you got to take that into account.
And it's the first time, I think, and I may be missing one, but on a stage of that magnitude, to have one of those plays become the tipping point, become the moment where, it's done, especially when the Cowboys turn it around and go down the field and go up 2 touchdowns. I think it made it the most glaring, and it was glaring. And look, I don't want to criticize Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They do a great job. But come on, guys, you got to call it what it is. I know he's Tom Brady, and I know that he's the GOAT, but Troy. Troy stood in there and took some shots. Sometimes you just got to stand in there and take the shot. Or say to the world, The reason he didn't stand there and take the shot is he's 45. And, you know, he doesn't look as skinny now as he did early in the season, but that's a guy that should not be taking a square shot from a 300-pound lineman who's coming at him full speed, or at least as full speed as he's ever going to be.
Sure.
So, it's just one of the factors. Just like when we talk about with Tua, physics aren't on his side. When smaller guy gets thrown around by one of these giant, powerful defensive linemen for a guy who's 45 and is 6'5", but isn't thick as he used to be.
Right.
Physics won't be on his side either. Medicine won't be on his side. Father Time won't be on his side if he takes that shot, and that ends up being the thing that we can point to and say, ... Cowboys win easily. Now, one of the reasons the door felt like it was still open for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was Brett Maher's inability to make not one,
holy crapola,
not two, not three, but 4 extra points. And when you leave it at 24-0 after missing your fourth one, making it a 3-score game in theory, that's when it's like, we've seen this movie before. Here comes Tommy.
Seriously.
But good God, 2 to the right, and then the overcorrection to the left. And I don't think a kicker's ever missed 4 extra points in a game ever that I can think of at the NFL level. Unbelievable. Dak Prescott beside himself. I mean, you got one job. It's the old "you got one job" meme. And I know it's not as short and easy as it used to be, but still, it's a 33-yard field goal, and you missed 4 of them last night.
That's the huge thing hovering over the game. As awesome as they played, and they can feel good about what they look like and going into San Francisco. That would be something that's got to be talked about. And I know we lost Mike here, so I'm going to talk to myself here for a second. But how could you not, as you're sitting there going into one of the biggest games you had as far as the Dallas Cowboys had here in recent history, the rivalry of the 49ers in the playoffs? Can you really feel comfortable and go with Brett Maher into the game? I mean, they got to bring somebody. I don't know. As a head coach, I don't think I could do it. Kickers are it's like a golfer or whatever. You get the yips. He might be awesome, but he might got the yips right now, and that would scare me to death. And I think I would be bringing in guys to work out here the next day or two.
Well, the person whose one job it is to keep me on air failed while I was talking about Brett Maher not doing his one job, but I'm back. We'll see if I'm gone 3 more times tonight. I'd never thought of this before. We have to ponder from time to time when a kicker gets injured during a game, who else on the team can kick. For the first time in 50 years of following the NFL, I actually thought, is there someone for whom Brett Maher can be benched during the game? Is there someone else who has a better shot at making this extra point than the perfectly healthy starting kicker? That's the thing. You don't have a starting kicker. You have a kicker.
Yeah.
You have one. Yeah. You don't need a backup. You never go to the backup. And I agree with you. It's a thought that Jerry Jones, the owner and GM of the team, should have this week. Here's Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott from after the game talking about their kicker who couldn't kick straight.
We need Brett. He understands that. So, we need to get back on it this week and, get him ready to go. Obviously, we're kicking out, an outdoor stadium out there in Santa Clara. So, he's disappointed, but, we need him. We need him to focus in, and he's been super clutch for us all year. So, but that's the plan.
I'm Money Maher's biggest fan. Obviously, I've been shown the video of me, and that's just emotion. That's part of it. I talked to him individually. Told him after the game, hey, let that go. We're gonna need it. I just played like a week ago, so that happens. But when you believe in each other and you believe in what we're capable of doing and knowing what that guy's done, what resiliency he's shown throughout his career personally, no doubt that he'll come back next week and be perfect and help us win.
Why would you say no doubt, Dak? Why? Why would you have no doubt? This is in his head now. There's too much riding on this. I'm sorry. This is a ruthless sport. It is, as I've said time and again, a giant football machine from which parts are removed and new parts are replaced all the time. And it's no more easy to do than at the kicker position. One kicker goes out, another one comes in. You need confidence. You can't be thinking about it. You can't have any doubt in your mind. First touchdown of the game against the 49ers. What if he misses that one? Field goal of about the same distance as an extra point. What if he misses that one? You can't just say, well, we talked to him and he said he'll try really hard and he won't do it next time. I mean, what else is he going to say? It's really in my head now, and I don't know if I can ever make a kick again. Thank God I made the last one, but I don't know how I'm going to feel when I line up to make a kick with more pressure on me. What if it comes down to a field goal try?
That's what I mean.
Down a point.
That's where I
right?
couldn't. Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I'm sorry, we just can't do this. And you know, this isn't necessarily a coaching thing because there's not like a guy in the bullpen that you can bring in, the other field goal kicker. But the organization can look who's out there. There's always a kicker out there. There's always somebody out there. You could bring in 5 today and do a gong show tryout and put them under pressure and see who survives it, who makes all their kicks, who's feeling it, who's getting it done. And then what you can do is you can add a guy to the practice squad this week. You can elevate him this weekend if you want to. You can put him on the active roster. You can make your decision as the week goes on. And you can see what Brett Maher does in practice.
That's right.
You know, you spend all week out there on the practice field. I want to see you make kicks. You better go make that kick because we're thinking about bringing someone else in. I mean, it sounds kind of harsh and kind of cruel, but damn it, the season may ride on.
That's right. It's a pressure-packed position. It's the only one that's not a reactive position in all the football field to where, no, it's truly pressure-packed. That's you are what you are. The other guys in the football field, we've talked about this before. You know, hey, there's pressure, yeah, but they're reacting to the moment. You don't have time to think, oh gosh, it's 3rd and 7. You're sitting there going, oh gosh, Vita Vea's in my face. I got to make a move and get the ball out of my hand, and it kind of takes the pressure away from that standpoint. Yeah, you got to have a guy that you know can stand in the face of pressure in the moment and not be bothered by a little wind out in Santa Clara and 70,000 49ers fans saying, F you, I hope you miss it. And that would be, to me, you definitely bring somebody in this week. You know, and like you said, I don't know if you put him on the roster right way, but he's there, one, to put a little pressure on Brett Maher to go, wait, how are you going to react all week? This guy's here at practice too. You know, you might even have a few moments during practice where you bring up the guys and get around him and yell at him and see how he reacts in that moment. But, like, man, he'd really have to pass with flying colors for me during the week because the thing it'd be hard for me to go in the game and go. I would have a hard time sleeping with myself, I guess, if I let Brett Maher be the kicker and then he misses a big field goal late 3rd, 4th quarter, and I go, oh, all the signs were there. I don't know why I let this happen. I would certainly flirt with the new kicker thing.
I got some free advice for the Joneses. Free advice. I'm talking to you right now, Steven and or Jerry. Here's what you need to do this week. And all I want in return is a little ride on the bus when we go to Indianapolis. That's it. Maybe if it works to a charm and you win the Super Bowl, you can invite me onto the super yacht. Here's what you got to do this week. And I'm serious about this. I was thinking about it while you were talking, all the different ways to get this guy ready. Teams pipe in crowd noise all the time for practice. We know that. All the different ways that they simulate the environment they're going to be in. What they need to do is have Brett Maher kick all week long. And they need to put this together today. They need to have a layered sound effect with thousands of voices chanting, Maher, Maher, because that's what he's going to hear. Every kick in San Francisco, they're smart enough to know they're going to be sing-songing his name. They're going to be getting in his head, and he is going to hear that when he walks out there for the first time to kick, the second time to kick, the third time to kick, every time, because they know it's a thing, and they can save their team a point or 3 multiple times. He needs to not just hear crowd noise. He needs to not just have guys around him. He needs to hear his name chanted in a derisive way every time he steps onto the practice field this week, because he's going to hear it that way every time he steps onto the field on Sunday. Guaranteed. Do it now. Get him ready for it. Get him kicking well in that environment, because that is the only way to simulate what he's going to see on Sunday night. And if it works, take me for a ride on the bus. Give me a hot dog. Give me some Johnny Walker Blue. If it really works, take me for a ride on the yacht. That's all I want.
Well, why don't you make that voice recording for them and send that down there? That'll really help them. Then you
layer it. Well, you layer it 1,000 times over. You know, like they did.
You make that, and they'll pop it in. Right.
Maher,
there you go.
Maher,
right.
Maher.
Just do that for
But you
an
need
hour and record it and send it to the Joneses and said, I made something
Maher.
for you.
I better be careful. If I keep doing that, I think a bull moose is going to show up at the door. Maher.
Thank you.
But Chris, am I wrong? We've seen that before. And those 49ers fans are ruthless and relentless and brilliant. They know this is a thing. They're going to be ready to go when he goes out there to kick.
Yeah,
they're going to give it to him. So give it to him in advance.
Pressure, no doubt. He
See if he
definitely
can do
is.
it.
We're all going to be talking about it. I mean, it's going to be definitely something that's going to be brought about, through talking heads like us on a lot of different stations. I got to think somebody's brought in at least for practice purposes and see how it goes. But, that's like the only thing that was negative about Dallas last night. That's for sure. There was a lot of things to look at, and when Dallas Cowboys play like that
makes it more glaring.
I
Chris,
know.
That makes
I
it
know
more
it does.
glaring.
I know. That's why I think they got to bring somebody in like you're talking about and play the music and the crowd noise and have a kicker there to see how he reacts to the week of pressure. But, man, I mean, when the Dallas Cowboys play like that, they remind you that, man, they could be a team that could, upset the apple cart, end up in the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy, one bad mistake, or Micah Parsons around the edge, strip sack fumble. Ooh, wow, watch out. For entertainment purposes, I am glad they won last night. We've seen Tampa versus the 49ers, and I don't know if it would go much different no matter what. This one, these guys got the freaks to hang with the other freaks out in Santa Clara. And I don't think they're going to back down for the physicality of the moment, too, here. So that's where it's going to be really cool to see, and one of the better games on divisional weekend, Sunday evening.
Well, and the AFC gives us a couple of new school matchups.
Right.
The NFC gives us a couple of old school matchups. I talked yesterday about how Eagles-Giants reminds me of the 70s, Pat Summerall, Tom Brookshire, green cement games at Veterans Stadium or Giants Stadium. Cowboys 49ers, good God, it's the 90s all over again.
Yeah.
Right? Pull out the Zubaz pants. I saw a guy at the airport yesterday wearing Giants Zubaz pants. Get out the Zubaz. We're going back to 1992 when the Cowboys and the 49ers get together. Too bad Candlestick Park is gone. Maybe they should just play the game on the site of Candlestick Park. I don't even know what's there now. So that's the only thing that is sad about this. It's new stadiums for these two games, not the ones we were accustomed to in the old days. But how about this, too? A fact that one of my writers noted today on PFT. 3 teams from the NFC East in the divisional round. First time 3 teams from the same division in the divisional round since realignment in 2002. And we were ready to disband the NFC East 2 years ago. We were talking about taking away the home game automatic for winning the division because the Washington football team, as they were known at the time, was the best of 4 really bad teams. Now, there wasn't a single team in the division under 500 because Washington finished 8-1, and the other 3 teams are all in the divisional round. That is impressive. And again, to me, I think look, I'll believe the 49ers are beatable when someone beats them, but I agree with you. Of all the various options out there for the divisional round, because the Eagles weren't an option because they was the 1 seed.
Yeah.
But of all the other teams that could have gone to Santa Clara this weekend, the Cowboys are the most intriguing.
Right.
Because I think the 49ers would have killed the Vikings. The 49ers would have killed the Buccaneers. The 49ers would have killed the Giants. And the 49ers, as we saw, already have beaten the Seahawks.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are the one team that I think could give the 49ers everything they can handle. And I hope they do on Sunday just for the purposes of seeing a good game. But I sure don't want it to come down to Brett Maher. Well, maybe I do. That would be the height of drama. Brett Maher, a 33-yard field goal with 2 seconds left in the game. Cowboys down 2. That
or just the extra point
moment
to win it. Maybe to go up 28-27. I mean, it could be just that.
I want it to be I want it to be win or loss though. It's got to be it can't just be we win if I make it and we go to overtime if I miss it. It's got to be we go home if I miss it, we go on if I make it. That's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
But speaking of going home,
it is scary. They got playmakers. We know that. They got an offensive line that you feel like, okay, wait, the 49ers aren't going to just overmatch the Dallas Cowboy offensive line. We know it's going to be a tough task, but this Cowboy offensive line is still very good. We know that as well. They got some creativity on defense, and they got a guy in Dan Quinn who was the head coach while Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons for 2 years. So he's had a firsthand look a little bit on like some of the rules and things Shanahan likes to do within his offense. He'll have a little feel for that. So that's where it is. It is interesting, definitely. And that's where I'm excited for it too. Like you said, there's some, the old school history, some nostalgia in this one, let alone we got a lot of big time talented difference makers on the football field that's going to lead, I think, to a really exciting game.
And I was trying to think of the best spot to make this point. I'm going to make it now. You mentioned Dan Quinn crossing paths with the guy who used to work for him in Atlanta, Kyle Shanahan, adds some intrigue, gives Dan Quinn all the more reason to spend every waking moment focused on nothing but getting ready to come up with a defense that can get a step ahead of Kyle Shanahan.
But that's not happening.
There's nothing.
Right?
That's my point.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that Dan Quinn should be doing this week other than working, sleeping, showering, eating, and I won't say the other word.
We got it.
For the S, but that's all he should be doing. That's it. Nothing else this week. Laser focus, full obsession, work, eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, and not much eat and not much sleep. Work, work, work. All work and no play makes Dan Quinn a successful defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. But no, because of the NFL's, I don't know what the word is, but I don't know. Bad. Let's just go with bad. Let's go next level and keep it simple. Bad procedures for filling out coaching positions. What are you going to have this week? Dan Quinn interviewing for a job at the Broncos. You're going to have DeMeco Ryans interviewing for a head coaching job. It shouldn't happen. I'm with Peter King 1,000% on this. Now, I resisted it when he first made the argument because I thought it's not practical to delay in-person interviews until after the Super Bowl. It's not practical. There's too much stuff that goes on right away with the scouting combine. And hell, you've got the Senior Bowl before the Super Bowl. You got to have a coaching staff in place. Well, hey, if they want to convince these owners to not fire coaches, this would be a way to do it. You can't talk to anyone who's currently working for another team until after the Super Bowl, because I don't care what anyone says. Dan Quinn will not be able to give his full attention, focus, and effort to his job this week. DeMeco Ryans will not be able to give his full attention and focus and effort to his job this week. Kellen Moore, if he's got an interview somewhere, and I've seen his name bubble up, he would not give his full attention, focus, and effort to his job this week because his ship is coming in. While he's still finishing up his duties on land, his ship has come in. And what do? And the best explanation that I've ever heard on this, and I think you mentioned Playmakers, it's in my book, Playmakers, the idea that when you come home from work, as you're getting ready for this playoff game, the first question from Mrs. Assistant Head Coach isn't, how are the preparations going for this key game this weekend? The question is, have you heard anything about that job that you're up for that would result in a dramatic change in our lives? We'd have to move. Your ship would come in. You'd be a head coach. Have you heard anything about that?
Right.
Your income will go up tenfold. Have you heard anything about that? You can't even have that on your radar screen this week. It should be focused only on the job. And that's what's unfortunate, because we may not see the level of next level coaching divisional round that we saw wild card round, because wild card round, these guys were off limits.
Well, that's the point where I think that I don't know what the solution is. I would love to see them come up with some sort of solution somewhat along the lines of what you're talking about and Peter King are talking about, because we want to see these teams at their absolute best. That's where I would think the NFL might want to flirt with changing this rule a little bit. We've had this discussion. I know the majority of the game plans are done, by the time Friday interviews come around. But damn, I've been a part of a lot of games with some different coaches where Friday and Saturday, hey, coach blah, blah, blah was sitting around, hey, let's watch this back one more time. And they came up with a few more ideas or, just figured out a few little details that maybe made sense and tinkered with the game plan that can put you over the top. But I'm with you, let alone – to your point too, like there's no way in like a DeMeco Ryan or a Dan Quinn is not taking a time a little at maybe the end of the day on Tuesday and the end of the day on Wednesday that is going to be like, okay, wait, let me get organized for my interview on Friday and make sure, I got all my ducks in a row here. So that's where it's unfortunate, but I don't blame those guys. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's just messed up situation and setup where they're put in a position of being put in a very tough position and hard to give your best effort with the way it's set up.
Reminds me of what Mickey said to Rocky: for a 45-minute fight, you got to train for 45,000 minutes. There is no limit to the amount of time that a coach can spend studying film, his own film, his opponent's film, other film, looking for ideas. It's an endless amount of time that you can spend and should spend, because you never know. That one extra thing you look at may be the thing that flickers an idea. Oh, I got some. Oh, I got something. Oh, I'm glad I looked at that. I got something now. And it's going to work. I know exactly when to use it. And maybe it won't line up the right way, but boy, if it does. See, people call it luck. That ain't luck. That's having your stuff together in a way where it is so buttoned up. You've got a plan for every possible permutation, and you bend luck your way. And tough luck, Cowboys. Tough luck, 49ers. Your defensive coordinators are distracted this week. And they'll say they're not, because what else are they going to say? They are. You're not getting your full benefit from them because of the rules the NFL has in place for interviewing head coaches, and maybe those rules should finally change to put everything on hold until after the Super Bowl. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.